Good morning. Welcome back. Welcome to Who Am I? Who am I? What is who am I? Well, it's a question we ask ourselves every day. It's a subject we ponder and muse on and chew and discuss because I think it contains all of the most esoteric and valuable, interesting, um, meaningful information that we can have comes from our understanding of who we are. And you can't really understand who am I unless you ask the question and ponder the answer, chew on the answer, think about the answer. And so that's what we do. I was thinking this morning about the evolution of this show because I did not conceive of this with my physical mind. It's not like I thought, oh, this is what I'm going to do. It wasn't like that at all. Here I am. It's August 2023, and I started this last year, early last year, but it wasn't like this at all. The early days of me doing this was not me doing a show or recording in any way, actually. I would get up early in the morning and come down into my office downstairs, and in the dark with the lights still off. I couldn't have the lights on and still do this. And my eyes closed, I would talk to myself. And I was getting straight all kinds of things. How I felt about stuff, what my history of things were, um, how things had gone down, stuff I wanted to talk to. Maybe this is why they discourage you from talking to yourself. Because if you start talking to yourself, then this is what happens. Ooh. I don't know. Back when I was growing up, the thought of talking to yourself, that was considered to be like the ultimate wackadoo. Were people who talked to themselves. Now you can't tell who's talking to themselves because people walk around with Bluetooths in their ear and they look like they're talking to other people, but you don't really know. And every once in a while, when I see this happening, I'll turn to my husband or whatever next to me and say, back in the old days, you wouldn't have known whether that person was crazy or not. But anyway, as time went by and I got more stable in my ability to discourse with myself, that's basically what I was practicing. But I didn't know. I didn't know. I just had this urge to do it. And as time went on, I was able to. I started recording on a phone recording app, and I really don't know where any of those recordings, how you can access any of them. I mean, they're there on my app, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to plug it into a program and turn it into a file somewhere. So it just sits on my phone. There it is. If I wanted to play it for another recording device, you know, I suppose I could save it that way. It probably doesn't matter. It's like in the early days of Abraham. Jerry wanted to record every single word that Esther said, because it just all seemed to be dripping with this perfect wisdom. Oh, I've got to save that. I got to save that. I got to save that. Turns out it probably doesn't really matter. What matters is that Esther herself continued the process of this connecting and speaking, and then she found a way to add other people into the mix, and then they kind of came up with a game. It's kind of like a game what she does. And that's why it's so cool, and that's why it's so fun. Because actually, I have been studying this, and my conclusion is that all of the best things that humanity has done ever, they do for fun, they do for pleasure, enjoyment, they do for art, they do for beauty. All the stuff we do for work and for serious is the harsh crap. It's the stuff that really isn't as good. At least all of the stuff, the invention of things, the coming up with things, it's all, the best stuff comes from our playing hearts. Play, 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 play. Play is the secret. Play is the secret sauce. And however hard it seems to be, if you can... So say if the conditions of the world get harsh, then just up the parameters of the game in your mind as you still look at the field as something you're playing with. It's just you've up-leveled, and so now, now you're walking through the hard course. But that doesn't make it any less play. It's interesting. Bashar pointed out in a video I watched last week. I think it was last week I watched it, and it was like a revelation to me, although the principle was absolutely something I already knew. But the saying was pithy, that play goes to clay. When you address the universe from a spirit of play, the nature of the universe softens and becomes more clay-like, so that you are then more able to mold it in a direction that you might prefer, rather than what it appears to be fixed in at this moment. There might be things in your field that you might be you might want to improve, things like a better living situation, or better relationships amongst those that you do live with, or more money in the bank, or a better car in the, just something, a better job, something that you like more than what you've got. Now, when you look at it harshly, when you look at it from the lower vibrations, you can't see a way in. It all, from that position, the whole spectrum around you hardens, and now you can't work with it anymore. So the whole point, the whole thing is, so can you see how the energy that you bring to the situation has everything to do with how your scenario is playing out? That it's not just happening to you in a fixed way from the outside, that then, you're responding to that same thing. No, depending on how you're responding, the thing in front of you is becoming different. And it's because it has to do with your route on the path, which is like fractally complex. What do I mean by that? Oh, I had a boyfriend ages and ages ago in the 80s, right when fractals first were discovered, because computers finally could do the math long enough. People, when you're doing it by hand, there's too many calculations to see the fractal. And he was telling me about the coastline of whatever. If you start looking at it, peering into it more specifically and more in detail, you dial in, you start adding it all up, and it's like the amount of coastline you got is infinite. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Somewhere in my mind there was a similarity. It did not translate, so never mind. So who am I? What are we really talking about? I think the biggest interesting thing about talking about who am I has to do with your vibrational cosmic self, your inner being aspect. It's like your secret self. But it's funny that the inner being should be the secret one, since she's the biggest part of you and the most connected to everything else and the one who is eternal. You know, she's got all kinds of characteristics that might make you think that she would stand out more. But everyone is so focused on your physical self that they miss the fact that you have this other self. And this other self is guiding you every step of the way. And the way that, so, you know, people can start waxing poetic about, you know, this inner being. It's true. And I was almost tempted to do that there for a second. But there's a mathematics about it that really calls to me, that speaks to me, that says that I should abstract this. I should extract this abstraction. I should abstract this mathematical aspect, you know, this, and show people. It's not, you don't have to take it personally, because in a way, the function of the equipment itself is not personal. Now you are a personal person, and you can take your understanding of the equipment and go personally make your personal life, and that can get really personal. But you don't have to take the universe itself personally, because there's a mathematics to how it works. There's a precision and an impersonal aspect that draws me, which is funny. You know, why would an impersonal aspect have this kind of draw? It's an escape, I think, from the emotions of the field around me, because, you know, people around me, they get emotional sometimes. Well, most of them don't. My husband doesn't much. Sometimes I'd like to kick him into a little higher emotional gear. And then there's others amongst the family that sometimes I wish would dial it down a tad. However, I am coming to recognize why Abraham appreciates those in powerful negative emotion every bit as much as she appreciates someone in a passion of positivity. You know, they're both equally important because, and valuable. That person in the negative passion, all they need to be is turned forward, and woo, and actually that very excitement of turning from backwards to front facing, you know, backwards to front facing and in clarity, that can be very, very satisfying. And the whole point of life is satisfying moments, satisfying experiences, satisfying creations, satisfying you're creating a tapestry of satisfying moments. And the more you can string satisfying moments going into satisfying moments, going into satisfying moments, culminating in satisfying moments, and then climaxing with satisfying, you know, crescendos, and then down into contented, satisfying, you know, quiet rest and satisfying peace and satisfying love and satisfying. I understand why Esther uses this word so much. It's all about satisfying. That's the only thing. Your inner being is not compartmentalizing the components quite the same way that you are. You've got certain things translated as that equals satisfying, money in the bank, car in the driveway, marriage, children. But those are really big concepts. And the way that they could play out, in so many different ways it could play out, every one of them satisfying. That's what you may not appreciate. And so then you got to go in and carve out the you have to call the shots yourself. You've got to go in and make some choices. But recognize how the equipment works. Recognize first and foremost that your negative self is not you. I say that so adamantly. On one hand, it is you, but on the other hand, it's not you. It certainly is not on the frequency of you. It may contain information that's you, but the frequency it's on is not the frequency of you, and therefore is not you, because you are a frequency. That's one of the biggest things to understand. Now, also understand that when you find yourself in a negative frequency, you did it. So, and you're the only one that can fix it. So, even though it's not you, don't think that that a demon has independently overtaken you. That's not what's happened. Even though that negative you might be you allowing demons to drive your vehicle, but you did it, and that negative energy is not you, but it's also not autonomously other than you. You're the one who did it. You're the one who can fix it. And so how do you fix it? Know who you are. Know who you are. Know that only the love is real. Learn to focus on what you like, because whatever you are looking at, and the frequency that you are on as you do that looking, is telling you whether you are moving forward or whether you've gotten your equipment tangled up and you've gotten yourself facing backwards. And now you're acting in this negative self that is not you. I have learned how I'm helping my children find their way, finally. And wouldn't it have been great if I had known how to do this from the beginning? Hold my own positive frequency as I gaze at them, and hold steady no matter what they do. I stay steady. I stay calm. I stay loving. I stay supportive. I stay in good humor, shining my light at them no matter where their emotions go. Now, I had a problem, and that is I had a daughter who kept going into dark thoughts and dark emotions, frightened. She was frightened about things, and I would go with her into her frightened places and become frightened with her. And I should never have done that. It felt supportive at the time, confirming her, but it ended up confirming negative emotions in her that I never should have confirmed. I should have stayed in my good humor and stayed in my light and, let her be in her darkness by herself, but hold my light and stay looking at her. And when she's ready to come out, there I am. I didn't do that. Well, I'm doing it now. And no matter what face either one of them show me, I only see who we really are. I'm getting better and better and better at that. I'm only seeing who all of us really are. That negative side that we show isn't who we really are. It's just how the equipment functions sometimes. It's that step one causing you to ask. It's really important that we get into life and experience what we've got and then recognize what would be better and then focus that direction, even though the better isn't here yet. You focus on it because you can see it coming, because you recognize that all this war has caused us to put peace into the vortex. What is this vortex of creation? Ah, I can't get away from some of Abraham's uh, uh, what would the word be? Some of their the words that she uses to describe her particular. It's not allegories. It's. Can you see what's written on my tongue? It's right there. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I can see why she describes some of the things the way she uses, why she uses the words that she uses. It's hard to find better ones considering what she's describing. You know, this idea that when we ask, there's a thing that happens in our equipment. It emanates, since your inner being is incapable of emitting a negative vibration. Now, I guess I'm taking that one on faith, but it seems like that is correct. Because your vibrational self is pinging. I have a little bit of a stuffy nose, so it's hard to say that word. Pinging off of physical reality, not negative reality. There is no such thing. There's the is with a capital I, that which is. That's what it's not pinging off of what is not. That would be the negative. It's pinging off of what is. And so, like, it's reverberating with, all that is. How can you do that negatively? You're just doing it, So your inner being isn't capable of doing a negative. You feel that, and you're calling it negative, but what you're calling negative energy, what you're calling negative emotion, is just a frequency that your physical mind's thoughts are producing, that is a frequency that's way different than the frequency that the thoughts that your inner being is always, these connected, high-flying, loving, connected, like everything added in, kind of connected, knowing all things kind of frequency. You might be taking a smaller tack, a meaner, smaller, and it doesn't feel good when you think that thought. You think that it doesn't feel good because it's true, and it feels bad because it's true, when actually that mean, hateful little thought that you just took actually feels bad because you have two minds. And the greater part of you is thinking thoughts that are way more expansive than that. And the difference in those two frequencies is causing that feeling in your solar plexus, right there in the pit of the core of your emanation station. You're broadcasting, where you're broadcasting from is somewhere right around your solar plexus. I always feel it's like an inch or two lower than exactly at your solar plexus, but it could be right at the solar plexus. It's somewhere right there is the center of your broadcast, although you're broadcasting, every bit of your physical body is emanating a frequency. Some of it is a thermal energy, but you are broadcasting to the universe, and the universe is responding to you. there's a bit of a time delay. You know, things don't happen instantaneously. We're in a world of density where, you know, the objects moving around take a little bit more time than when they are simply in spirit, like they are in your dreams, you know. But this is kind of a collective dream that we are bringing into place. And we are dreaming it into place. And we would be best served if we would learn how the equipment works and quit nightmaring it into place. Learn how to focus on something that is not existent yet, but coming into being, so that you can strengthen it, so you can make it come quicker. Focusing upon it will bring it here quicker. But it's best if we would learn to focus on what we want instead of focusing on what we've got. You know? You use what you've got to, just like you use the road to get to your destination. Say it's Miami, Florida. You're headed for Miami, Florida. And you're on the road to Miami, Florida, and you have to kind of keep your eye on the road, but you aren't just staring straight down in incredible detail at all the pebbles on the road. You're just kind of skimming the road as you keep your eyes about, 100 yards ahead and your mind on Miami, you know? It's kind of like that as we fly through the universe. What do I mean? Where are we going? Well, we're not really going anywhere. We're going to stay here right on Earth as we do this. But we're going to get from where we are to where we want to be. And where are we that we don't want to be? Well, I think we're still out there fighting wars. I mean, the last time... I don't watch the news very closely. Sometimes I let The Daily Show, clue me in on things happening. And big history leaks in, fun things leak in, the Olympics leaked in. I thought that was pretty good. I used to think that it was disgraceful, people thinking about games and such when the world was so serious. Why couldn't they think about the problems and let's work them out? But I realized that you can't fix the problem by facing the problem as a problem, because in a way your strength lies in this really magical place of who we are and how it works. Our true strength is in play. When we address the universe from a playful energy, the whole thing becomes more clay-like, softer, more clay-like, as opposed to when we face it from a problem, all of a sudden it gets harder. It becomes rigid and you can't fix it. So understanding this, so the whole thing has to be done playfully. Well, how do you fix frickin' sixth mass extinction, war, world poverty, global warming? How do you fix all that stuff from a frickin' playful state? What's playful about any of that? Well, that's the problem, isn't it? So you gotta see the whole thing as playful. You gotta see the whole thing as not serious. Even unto death are we not serious. And you'd be better served if you could find your way to do that. Well, how do you do that? Well, I find that it helps to not focus so much on the, I'm air quoting, reality of the world around you, because the reality is more malleable than you think. It can go anywhere from clay-like and playful to harsh, dark, rigid, and very unfriendly. And the whole difference between one state and the other state isn't the world outside of you. It's what you're doing. That's what's making the world shift. I remember noticing this a long time ago. I was very young, and I could. It's like, man, when I'm mad, the world looks like one thing, and then when I'm not mad, the world looks completely like something else. There's something to that. There's something important about that. And so the whole answer to everything lies with you. You do not depend on others around you for your happiness, for your stability, for your meaning, for your relationship with the rest of the universe. It's all up to you. Whether that universe that you inhabit, whether it is a friendly place where others react to you kindly and playfully and joyfully, and I'm telling you, there is plenty of that out there. Oh my gosh, the world is so delightful. So delightful. But if you freeze up inside of yourself and then broadcast that, the world becomes very harsh and unfriendly. And then you'd swear that that's all there is. But it's just you navigating your own space. And the universe is so much more complex. You think it's finite, you think it's fixed, you think it's happening to you, but it's not. You have so much control over the way you are navigating your vehicle through the spaces. You would be really surprised about it. And if you can somehow back off from what you just close your eyes. If all you can see is monsters around you, close your eyes for a minute. Close your eyes and summon something else from within you. Because it's you that's bringing the demons to you. It's you that's summoning angels. It's you that is, your sight is changing the world around you. Both in any given moment and then as an effect, it's changing. The world is not the cut and dry thing that we would assume that we've got. If it was cut and dry, why the heck would it be such a crazy ride? You know? I can't even believe what's happening politically. I'm very happy about it, actually. I didn't think I would be that happy about it because I really liked Marianne Williamson and I thought that she would make a good president. But, you know, she's so competent and she's so loving and good. And, you know, I knew her originally through her spiritual work, you know. I read her book, Return to Love, which is sort of an encapsulated, easier to read description of A Course in Miracles, which is something that she studied and something that she completely understands, law of attraction and all of this kind of stuff. But she comes to it from, she still isn't playful enough. And actually, that wasn't what I was going to say. I still think she'd be a great president. And I hope that it would be great if Kamala Harris could have the kind of vision to put her in the State Department, you know? Put her in charge of international diplomacy. And I'll tell you what, we are going to be seen as really nice people by the rest of the world, with Marianne Williamson there as, say, Secretary of State. Wouldn't that be great? That'd be great. I wasn't crazy about it at first, just handing Kamala but it really is quite late in the game, and they did not. Well, they see Trump as an existential threat, and you know, okay, fine. I feel the energy in the room, and I feel the possibility of her. Let's see how she responds to people. Is she going to carry forth a democratic message? Is she really going to further the cause of democratic ideals. If she does that, then even though we, coronated her instead of, you know, democratically selecting her from amongst the other Democratic candidates, she was positioned in such a way that she moved into the spot. And maybe that's how politics works. You can't just pluck someone completely out of the structure of the system and plop them in, because they're going to be, when they bring their own system in, maybe that's the threat. That was part of what Hitler's thing was. Before they came to power, they sort of created their government in it's not in absentia, that's not the right word. In exile, that's not exactly the right thing either. But you know how to the side of the main government, these things form on the side. And then when Hitler was, he finally wormed his way in as chancellor, I've got it, I'm not going to let go of power now. Then all of his inner circle, they were already right there to immediately start their physical work on their physical. Maybe there's a reason why we promote from within the structure, the sanctioned structure, the known structure. I'm just musing. Anyway, I am a little bit more hopeful about our political situation. It did seem pretty dire there for a minute that, aging Joe was going to be, the only thing that stood between us and the autocrat. Now, Hitler, not Hitler. Boy, there's a faux pas. Trump is not Hitler. I'm not suggesting. He's more like a mob boss. Is he all the way to, a mob boss being entirely outside of the law starts, ordering murders and such. And I don't really think that Trump is there. I think he's not that much of an outlaw. He's a petty criminal. He's a criminal on paper. He's a pirate. Flouting rules of stuff. He isn't actually a monster. He's a bit of a buffoon. Anyway, we don't want him as president. We had him as president before, and we really don't want to do that again. I think that democracy would be much, much better served, and we can keep moving this project democracy, because that's what it is. It's not actual democracy, it's project democracy. And we're going to see where it really ends up. I was pretty pessimistic in a way earlier this year, although I know that things are always working out for us. So even in my pessimism, I was thinking, okay, well, how is this going to serve us? How could it serve us? How could everything coming down around our ears, how could that serve us? You could have asked that at the beginning of World Wars I or II. You might say, oh my gosh, everything's coming apart at the seams. How on earth is this serving us? And you could have answered, well, at the end of this, there's a lot of people who are going to be a lot more free to make choices than they have been up to this point. The servant class and women and people of color all got a better deal after those world wars were done. Now, the whole thing, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff. Medicine was served, textiles, materials, understanding, communications. There's all kinds of technologies that are pushed forward during wartime. The necessities of the warlike moment cause physical abilities to be, explored. I don't know. But things are always working out for us, and I'm really glad. They can work out more smoothly. They don't have to work out with world wars. I'm not saying the world wars were necessary. It's just that when there are forces in the field causing, making it impossible for peaceful revolution to happen, or peaceful evolution to happen, peaceful expansion, when there are forces that are clamping it down, trying to keep that expansion, in check, uh, then peaceful expansion doesn't happen. Uh, Bloody expansion happens. Those are new ways of saying that. I was thinking back to JFK's, when I think he's the one that said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make bloody revolution inevitable. Because that expansion is going to happen, that movement is going to happen. We are changing, we are shifting, we're actually expanding. We're growing. The whole thing in understanding and consciousness is all growing. It's all expanding. We are getting better. And it's going to get really, really obvious fairly soon. I'm surprised it isn't as obvious yet. And the reason that it isn't as obvious yet is because people don't go back and look. And then a lot of people didn't live through that. And then a lot of people don't put it all together and then go, oh, look at that. But even in my own lifetime, the growth of understanding that has occurred during my lifetime is pretty spectacular. Pretty spectacular. From if you go back and watch sitcoms. I like to watch sitcoms. They're lighter, they're fluffier. It's an easier way to go in and peer at a time period. And it is telling you what people laughed at the time, what they thought was funny. It often tells you what they think is the leading edge of something. It also tells you what people think was the norm at the time, because they're laughing at things that are outside of the norm. And so it sort of implies things about where we were at the time that sitcom was made. And we have quite a history of sitcoms. And now I find them interesting, and I can see quite a bit more into them because I remember when they were running, you know, prime time. The Brady Bunch and I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched and Andy Griffith Show and Barney Miller and I Love Lucy. Now, some of the early I Love Lucy, of course, I got from reruns, but it was way closer to the time of. And then she went and did some shows in the 70s too. Here's Lucy and The Lucy Show. She didn't just do I Love Lucy back in the 50s. She did other stuff in the 60s and 70s. And so I remember it from the time, Taxi and Who's the Boss and all of the stuff. And when you watch it, The Nanny, that was another one. When you watch it and then think about the time period, you can realize how far we have come. How far we have come. We've come a long ways just in the years that I have been on this earth. And things are getting better. Are some things getting worse? Possibly. The places where we still have problems are often associated with those aspects of ourselves that we don't quite understand yet. The fact that we're still engaged in war. We shouldn't have hardly anything to do with with a military. We don't need much. We really don't need much. And yet we keep the momentum of that. We really need to stop that. That's not who we are. That's a negative self that so let's back up. Let's back up. I realize I'm coming up on 45 minutes here, so I'm well into the show. And I never know from day to day what it is I'm going to talk about. As a matter of fact, during the day when I think about the show, I can't imagine what I do talk about. You know, it's hard for me to imagine the space that I'm in when I'm in the show, when I'm outside of the show. I don't know. I just know that when I get into this space, I realize that there's plenty to talk about. Oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about. Everything from all of history and takes on that, vantage points from here and there. And then you can talk about all kinds of aspirational future, all the things that we want, where we're going. You can talk about the material specifics that I often talk about are because we're talking about who am I as source energy. And then my little agenda to my thesis has to do with I want to get us off fossil fuels. And I want to get us into a place where we're playing with each other instead of warring with each other ever, ever, ever. We should never, ever, ever go to war with one another. There should be, if somebody is misbehaving and you have to intervene somehow, you pull a Kwai Chang Caine. See, that's another one. Although that wasn't a comedy. That was from Kung Fu, that show with David Carradine. And I was always impressed by the spirit of him. So he's been trained, he's half Caucasian, half Asian, half Chinese. And he is trained in a Shaolin monastery in the ancient art of Kung Fu. And he's really, 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 really good at it, actually. Really, really good. And he's got the spirit of it down. And now he is in the west of the United States back in old Western times, and facing the prejudice against the Chinese and all of the darkness that was there. But what's cool about him is when he has to defend somebody or fight something, he does only the motion needed to stop the person from doing the negative thing that they're doing. And that's it. He doesn't ever go in and wail in and beat the shit out of the guy after he's stopped him from doing his bad stuff. He defends only, defense, and then usually there's some way that he gets back. He shows them some sort of lesson, defeats them somehow in a way, but it's not. It's defense only, like that, the blocking motion, and that's it. You don't keep going and then bomb them and then blow them and then justice and revenge and all that kind of stuff. None of that. He just stops them from their bad behavior. And that somehow needs to be our military spirit too. And our ability to do that should be more on the line of, hot water on demand as opposed to the hot water in a great big tank that stays hot all the time. It should be more like that. And I don't know how to create that spirit in our military, but that's the spirit that we need to have, that ability to jump into action and summon the hot water immediately if we need to. But there's no reason why we have to keep a big old tank full of hot water all the time when we can heat it the minute that we need it if we needed to. But then we need to Kwai Chang Caine it and stop it only. And then help everybody dismantle their weaponry and stuff, because this is not, we're like an autoimmune disorder, because we are a super organism. We are a single being on this planet, and we need to start behaving more like one. with kindness towards every cell in the body, with every cell in the body being recognized as valuable to the body. We're all in this together. We are all in this together. and so there you go. So where are we in this narrative? What are we talking about today? What have we decided that we want to focus on? I like the inner being. The inner being is an interesting topic. It is the reason why we have the emotions that we have. It's the reason why we have. It's not just the reason. It is our guidance system. We are being guided by a vibrational being who knows exactly what we want and where it all is. Why would we not follow her advice? And how do you follow her advice? Her advice comes in the form of a vibrational back read. Pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to the way your thoughts are making you feel. It's not actually the raw world that is making you feel the way you feel. It is your thoughts about the world that are making you feel the way you feel. Your inner being feels fine about the world, even in all of its drama, even in all of its pain and suffering. Your inner being knows exactly what's going on. It knows that this is simply a matter of us not quite understanding our equipment. And the very second that we get our equipment, we will realize that we are embedded in a beneficent, magnificent universe of incredible capability. The capabilities that we can use to get ourselves out, to get our tails out of every crack we put them in. You know, we can recreate the abundance that we seek on planet Earth. We can re-garden Eden. We can do it. We want to do it. We're really good at doing it. Have you ever seen a beautiful garden when human beings come together and create a beautiful garden? Oh my gosh. Beautiful gardens. We can garden this planet. We can recreate Eden. We can be the caretakers of this planet that the Bible tells us that we are. You know? But the way we have to do it is we have to understand who we really are and how this system really works. What is source energy? How does materiality come into being? How is the manifestation, how is the rolling manifestation rolling? How is it fluxing? It's changing. I like to say becoming, and be going. It's becoming and be going and becoming and be going, and that which is coming into being is causing what was there to pass away. And it just works that way. It just is that way. Get used to it. And it's okay that it's that way. The problem comes when you start identifying with the material, when you start identifying with the aspects that are in flux, as opposed to the aspect you really are, which is the formless field itself. That's who you are. And if you would identify that way, then you'd be much better at the things moving around you. You'd be a lot better at dealing with it. You wouldn't cling to things familiar with longing and pain and suffering as you're so attached to the things. But the things always change. The things always change. But the love never changes. That's the secret lesson. The world of flux and form, the objects move, they keep changing, but there's an underlying aspect to it that never, ever, ever, ever changes. And that's what you need to identify with. You start identifying there. You start plugging your plug in over in the formless side instead of on the form side, and you'll be way better off. You will not find yourself in the state of attachment like you find yourself when you're identifying with form. You are using the form, you're wearing the form, your part of you is made of form, but who you really are is not the form, but rather the formless. The non-physical is actually who you permanently are. It's a continuum of energy and information, a continuum of intention and desire, a continuum of interest and love, and that's who you really are. The form is just what you have coalesced yourself into. And when this form passes, you can come into another form. It won't be exactly like this one because it never is. Because you can't, because of the way things are winking all the way out and then all the way back in and all the way out and all the way back in, and then as your attention moves, it winks in and out differently, and it's impossible to go back to any point and try to manifest anything exactly like you did at that time because there is more there now. And so you just can't go back. You can't hold a single form in a steady state because it doesn't work that way. The world of form changes. Thank heavens you are not made of that. You are made of the plonks themselves. You are the field. You are the field, and you can become anything you want to be. And that's what we are. And if we would come at our whole situation from this direction, then all of a sudden you understand what to do. Oh, everyone has to be free. Whether I want everyone to be free or not is a different question. I do, ultimately. I want to teach people how to be free so that you can understand how to be safe, how to be cooperative and co-creative and whatever co kind of words we could come up with that would describe us dancing together, each one calling their own way, and yet the whole thing coming together in a beautiful harmonious dance. Doesn't that sound great? It would be great. It would be great, and we could do that if we knew who we were and how our equipment worked. So, where does this leave us right now? We're coming up on an hour. What do I want to do? I'm going to go on for at least another half an hour. There's so many things. Like I said, when you come to this place, you realize how many things you can talk about. Where we're going, where we've been, what we've got in the moment. You know, and we could just talk about it. We could just riff about stuff over a Corona or a margarita or something like that. Or you could get in, you could, put your gloves on and, your boots on and get in and get into the fray and start trying to make something happen. I wouldn't suggest that you do that unless you're coming from a happy place. If you're coming from an aggravated place of any sort, that is so irritating. I forgot that it started doing that, and I don't know why it would do that. I have a fire alarm, a smoke alarm, right outside this room that We've even changed it out to a different um, smoke alarm, and it's started chirping again anyway, and I don't understand it. My husband is not going to be happy about that. I'm glad we don't have the dog that we used to have that was just totally freaked out anytime our fire alarm went off, because it's such a screechy, disturbing fire alarm. I'm a very light sleeper. We don't need to have an alarm anything as loud as that. But anyway, but I digress. So I did mention that part of my thesis, I do want to get us off fossil fuel, and I think that we can get off fossil fuel. And there's two directions to, and we need to just keep focusing on this. We can't just say, oh, somebody in our society is taking care of this, but I don't have anything to do with energy. I'm not interested in energy. I don't know anything about energy. Why should I care about energy? Well, because the way that fossil fuel fuels our society, our technologies, our civilization, is destroying the planet. And it's causing virtually every sustainability issue that we are experiencing on the planet. All of the sixth mass extinction, the global warming, all of the big things are being caused by the fact that we are burning fossil fuel instead of being on the energy that we could be on. Now, some people think that the choice is a false choice between we either use fossil fuel or we have to go back to an ancient agrarian society where oxen pulled our plows through the dirt. And that's not what I'm saying. That is not the choice. We can go on in our technological advancement. We just need to plug into a different source. And I think the bridge is going to be just over Unity devices. And we gotta find where our government has hidden the information, because they took it from the people who invented the devices and then either shamed or murdered or disgraced or shushed up somehow the inventor so that they themselves couldn't then, recreate the technology. But that information exists somewhere. It really does. Or you just tell everyone what has happened in an official way. Hey, this is what our government has been doing. We're reversing our position because now we realize that we have to do this. We're being forced to do this, but now we're going to do this for our own survival. And then make a call for all of the citizens. So have a contest for the best devices, and any device that puts out more than it takes to run gets some kind of a prize. And if it hits a certain kind of level, like puts out a significant amount, anyone that hits a certain level, maybe they get $1 million. But every single device that is entered, that is deemed to be effective, every one of those devices, the design of them goes open source up on the internet, and anybody, anywhere on the whole planet can recreate those devices and start producing energy everywhere. It will infuse energy into the human project like you would not believe. People are going to be able to, people who were listless and doing nothing before are going to be energized. Their ability to communicate, to travel, to transport, to create, to produce is going to be galvanized. Produce anything from foodstuffs to all of our problems are going to be solved. Well, and then there's going to be a whole new crop of problems that is going to come up. That is true. And I can almost taste what some of them are to begin with. And it's almost, you can almost feel it as the reason why certain things were kept from us by way of, because of national security reasons. It's almost an echo of those problems that are going to come up when, you know, it is going to create some problems to have everybody have all the energy that they need to do anything they want to do. But at the same time, we've got to come together as humanity and have a big push for educating people as to who we are, what we're made of, where we came from, where we're going, what's the object of the exercise, what are the primary assumptions about, what are the laws of the universe. The laws of the universe are this: you exist. There is nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. There is nothing you can do to change that. The all are one, and the one is all. There is nothing you can do to change that. What you put out is what you get back. There is nothing you can do to change that. And finally, everything changes except for the laws. There is nothing you can do to change that. And that's what, those are the laws of the universe. That fourth one there, which I've heard Bashar call it the third one too, and The Secret calls it the first law. It's the first law, it's really the only law that requires any action on your part. All the others take care of themselves. What you put out is what you get back. That's up to you. That one is up to you. All the others you got no say in. Everything is here and now, and you exist, and the one is all, and the all are one, and everything changes except for the laws. You don't have any say about those. The only one that you have any say about is what you put out is what you get back. And it's an energy thing. It's a spirit thing. It has to do with the frequency that your mind and your spirit, your thoughts are operating on. It's which direction you are guiding your I'm going to change this. I had been doing more of my slides, and I do have a slide presentation which takes you through, some I have my slides. If you're a fan of the show, then you're in a very rare company, because there's not very many of you. Yesterday, before 8 o'clock in the morning, 3 people had watched already, which is interesting because if you look back the last couple of weeks, there are several episodes that don't have any watches on them. So, and some of them were really good. So if you are a fan of the show and you missed a couple episodes, go pull up all my videos in chronological order. You'll see, and go pick some of the ones that say that they have no views, that you haven't viewed. But if you don't, I think it's going to be sort of like what Jerry used to want to record every single thing that Esther said right at first when she was. And now, when Abraham comes out and speaks, well, that's valuable too, because she's chopping it up and putting it out all over YouTube as wisdom clips of this and that and the other. And she's describing the vibrational world that we live in, and this your inner being and your vortex of creation and the law of attraction and how momentum works, how when you take up a thought, it it's a frequency, and it has a tendency to attract other frequencies. You sit on a thought, you think about a thought, and about 16 seconds into it, the universe will magnify it, will give you another one like it, in the same spirit, in the same frequency. Have you ever noticed, like, when you're sitting around talking and somebody brings up a story like, oh man, I cut myself so bad the other day, and then everybody starts thinking about, it doesn't take very long before everybody has pulled up all of their files, about bloody files of, accidents and cuts, and then it might take a gruesome turn, and then if somebody starts bringing up car accidents, then there's all of that, and the next thing you know, nobody remembers what you were talking about beforehand. The momentum just kind of sweeps everybody away. Well, this happens all the time. The universe is doing that. As you think a thought, the universe will hand you another one just like it, and another one just like it. But it magnifies. It isn't just you get one and then another one. It starts magnifying. It might be, I don't know if it's multiplicative, like so it doubles and then doubles and doubles. I'm not sure what the mathematical order of it is. But apparently, by the time you reach the 60-some second mark, you've got a pretty good momentum going, and it's going to be hard to break. You're focused on somewhere in the grid. It's something in reality, and you're on a particular frequency about it, and the universe is going to support you in that frequency that you've chosen and keep handing you more like it. And the momentum is going to be whatever. Now, apparently, when we go to sleep at night, we lay the momentum down. We wake up the next morning and we have an opportunity to grab a different one. Or you can remember yesterday's grievances and grab all the same ones and start over. But for just a minute, you have a choice. You have a choice about whether maybe you might want to start a different momentum. And this is the crack that Abraham, in her processes, she gets you to inhabit that crack and make it bigger. You start off that early place, early in the morning, and have a little meditation. The meditation is just you disconnecting you from essentially your negative mind. Most people operate most of their thoughts on negativity. It's frightening when I think about it, because that negativity it's the demon in the world. It's the devil. It's Shiva. It's destructive. It's the problem. It's the shadow. I'm saying it in all these words, and I'm using this light tone because I don't want to get all dramatic about it. It's the devil. It's the devil. But it is. And wouldn't we like to get rid of that energy in the world and be surrounded by more heavenly energies? Wouldn't that be great? Heaven on earth instead of hell on earth? We are capable of creating both, and we frequently do. We just need to understand who we are. We need to understand who we are and what the pathway out of the wilderness is. The pathway out of the wilderness is to recognize who we are. Because then when we identify in our own minds, I see the world so much differently now. We are one. We are one. I am one with my fellow human beings. And it isn't a good thing if I get mine, but I screw my neighbor in doing so. And I don't have to, because I know that there is a win-win position, and my inner being is standing at the win-win position, because she's okay with all the world succeeding. She can feel the whole world. She's reverberating with all of the information of all the field around us. She's my inner being, but she's also your inner being. But my inner being is anchored right here where I am. And so she's specifically marking my preferences and my desires and my hopes and dreams and interests, my impetus, my uh, continuum of that. She's from where I am, she's marking mine. From where you are, she's marking yours. But there's a place where she comes together, and she is both of ours. And many people call this organizing force, they call it the G word, which I am reluctant to say because people have it all defined differently. They have preconceived notions of what they think that G word is. Now, if you understand what I'm saying, then you can go back and look at your own. I don't want I don't want you to discard your beliefs for mine. I want you to add my belief to yours and then check it out. That's actually what we should be doing. If you really want to understand the world, add everything together. Don't subtract it out. Because the Almighty is a wholeness that includes everything. So how could you subtract anything? If you subtract any of it, now you're missing pieces, right? It's one of the reasons why we are so important to this equation. Every one of us here is important because you're here. You know, we need you to complete the picture. It's always true. Anyway, so where do we go from here? I don't know. This whole show, me doing the show, sitting in my studio early in the morning, is sort of like a meditation for me. It's an oral meditation for an hour and a half to 2 hours. I am steady, stream of consciousness, just in a state of non-resistance, talking about what I want. I mention briefly where we are and sort of kind of allude to problems that we might have, but we don't talk about or focus on the problems. We're going to focus on the nature of the situation, which is what's going to get us out of our problems. When you understand how malleable the universe really is, how changeable the plonks really are, you won't be upset that the world is changing. You will start learning how to guide it in the direction of where you want it to go, and then you will realize how exciting is this world that we live in. These terrible problems that we have created for ourselves, in a way, are kind of going to be fun as we fix them. As we move from where we are to where we want to be, that very motion apparently is all that we need to be satisfied. We don't have to be all the way over in everything's fixed. We just need to be moving in the direction of we're fixing it. Ooh, look at how it's getting better. Ooh, look at this. Ooh, look at that. That's all we have to be doing in order to be having fun. This chirping thing right behind me, I just got to go confirm. It has to be the one right outside my door, which is so discouraging because it's the one we changed. We went down to Lowe's and bought a different one. Why is it chirping? Hold on, I'm going to go check. It was indeed the same smoke detector chirping. That's very discouraging. I'm going to change my picture too. We're going to go from this big old beautiful tree, and I think that this came from Pixabay. All of these backgrounds, they're coming from Pixabay, and I think this one says that this tree is in Scotland. I think that tree is in Scotland. But we're going to go to this tree. This is my magical tree, my twinkly magical tree. So who am I? Who am I and how does this work? And how does my knowledge of how it works, how does it help me individually? And how is it going to help us collectively? How is it going to help us be more peaceful and loving and kind and compassionate and gentle on each other? Because you are part of me and I am part of you. And if I'm mean to you, then it's just like being mean to my own foot or my own liver. I know. Are you my foot or are you my liver? I don't know. Cells in the body of humanity. I have alluded to energy being a big problem. The fact that we have been lied to about what is possible is a bit disturbing. We need to correct that. We need to understand that I'm not saying over Unity devices are easy. If it was easy and a lot of people had come up with this, it wouldn't have been possible to squelch it. They're tricky. It takes a genius to figure it out, especially a genius to break through the conventional education system that says it's not possible to make an over Unity device, a device that puts out more energy than you put in to run it. The reason it's possible is because there is no such thing as a closed system, and you are not actually creating energy when you do that. There is already almost unlimited, infinite energy existent in every point, everywhere in the universe. It is 0-point energy. It is the energy that exists when there is no discernible moving atoms or stuff. It's just the energy of the field at rest. 0-point energy. That's why it's possible to have an over Unity device. Sometimes some of those devices have been created tapping into either the magnetic field of the Earth or frequencies out in the ether somewhere, out in outer space somewhere. They aren't creating energy out of nothing. That's not what they're doing. They're disobeying no laws of physics as they put out, as they generate power. So that's one thing. I was saying they aren't easy, but they are possible. And once we get past that, so now we have over Unity devices putting out energy here and there, and anybody who's got one of these devices can run their little farm without any electric bills, and they can do anything that they need to do, anything from milking the cow to running the home computer to whatever. What do I want to say about this? That is so important. That's going to be such a game changer to be on a different energy source. I want to just say the words but then I'm done saying the words and there's nothing more to say. But oh my gosh, this is so big. It will change everything to have all the clean, free energy that anyone needs anywhere. And you don't have to wire it in. You don't have to set up a power station nearby and wire the houses and wire we don't have to do that. The absolute holy grail of it all is, now, apparently this was invented. Now, I have no idea where. It would be lovely if we could find these. What is this one? Where is it? Forest Road. Where did it go? This one. What is this one? Oh, I sort of like that one. Okay, we'll leave it here for now. There was a guy who invented a device that would that would tie your technology directly to the quantum field, directly to source energy. Little solid state device, and we could put this in any device that needs power. Just put the thing that so you don't need a battery and you don't need to keep charging the battery. You just have a thing that connects you directly to source energy, and it'll just run your stuff. Everyone everywhere will have all the energy that they need. And we don't need the fossil fuel people in between. And you know what? They don't need to be getting the yachts and the $1 billion yachts and the private islands and the Learjets and stuff anymore. They don't need to be the fossil fuel moguls. Do not need to be the ones that are the only ones who get that sort of stuff. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. It could be that energy, like fossil fuel shares, take a worldwide dump. And when they do that, the structure of our financial institutions is probably going to crash for a minute. And there's going to be a huge resorting. It's going to be like, how can you tell who gets what now? You know, everybody's bank account doesn't mean anything anymore. You know, how are we going to deal with that? Well, I don't know. But if I have my own energy supply so that I can control my climate, I can communicate with the rest of the world, I can even, I have all the power I need to grow my own food. I realize I'm digressing, and I can feel myself going into my own mind, like imagining. It is going to be an issue. It's not going to be all wonderful. It is going to open up a whole new can of worms. But I don't know about you, but I'm ready for a new can of worms. I don't like this old can of worms we've been dealing with. I'm tired of world poverty. I'm tired of war. I'm tired of hearing about such things as the sixth mass extinction, Garbage Island, world poverty. There's all kinds of suffering, human and non-human. All of these things. Don't like it. Don't want it. And so I believe. Now, this runs along the lines of those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And it kind of runs along those lines. Had they allowed the incremental of the over unity devices that could have fueled our technologies little by little without having energy itself be a big issue or become the player that it is, like it's the backbone of the financial institution because it's rare, because it's valuable, because it's scarce. It now has a shape and a weight and a vibration different than it would have. And now, I mean, it has to be transformed. It is not sustainable to continue to burn fossil fuels. In so many ways, it is not sustainable. It isn't enough, and it's way too dirty. Both of those things. It will turn us, the whole planet, into a dead cinder. And we'll still have to stop doing it 50 years from now, you know? Because we'll run out of it. And even if you tell me, oh, we've got enough for 100 years, or even 500 years, I want humanity to survive 100,000 years, you know? 1,000,000 years. I don't want us to destroy the planet 1,000 years from now, 500 years from now. That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. So, so who am I? Who am I? And what am I supposed to do with all of this information? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to do with it myself. I find myself in the middle of this paradigm that I find rather interesting. The paradigm is I find myself embedded amongst a people that do not know that they are one, which is interesting, and this absolutely unsustainable paradigm that I can see our way out of, but there's not that many people that can see their way out of this right now. I'm certainly not the only one. I'm going to show you right now, because I always do this, and I'm past an hour and a half, so I need to do this. I have my links list. This is my list of over on my... And if you can't find the... I actually don't know how any of this works, and I know I could do a better job. And maybe I'll just have to do a better job of embedding my links list into the end of my program and then attaching that at the end of, I don't know, but the regulars are going to get tired of that portion of the show. You're probably tired of this portion of the show right now. I've pulled up the links list and I'm going to tell you about it. If you've watched my show before, you're probably tired of this. But I didn't come up with all of this myself. I just put it all together. That's all. Law of attraction and this idea that our paradigm is artificial. We don't have a free market. We don't have a free press. We do not have... Our financial institutions are manipulated. This petrodollar thing is... It doesn't even have to be. We could plug into source energy. We really could. And what would that change? It would change everything. It would change everything. And I'm ready for a change. I'm tired of what we got going on. I'm ready for a big injection of abundance, is what it will be. An enormous injection of abundance. Now, on the one hand, a whole lot of people in the energy industry are going to be displaced. But, there's going to be plenty of jobs in the new paradigm that hasn't even hardly begun to take form in anyone's minds yet, let alone, translate into all the people who are going to be making all the devices that's going to transform our technology into the technologies that can plug directly into source energy. And so if you are working in the oil industry right now, I would suggest that you start thinking about something different. Or you're going to be holding on to an antiquated way of life for dear life in order to keep food on your family's table. And you don't really want to have to do that, because fossil fuel's coming down. It is absolutely coming down. It is on its way down. Does it look like it's on its way down? Maybe not. It may not look like it. People are still, wanting to drill, and they're still, that's the only way to run anybody's car is at the gas pump still, or there's the electric cars, but most of that electricity is still being produced by some form of fossil fuel, be it coal fire or, whatever. It's still all dirty. So I know it's coming down, even though there's precious little physical evidence of it yet. But I promise you, when it starts to come down, it's going to come down fast, and it's going to come down hard. Because can you imagine if you were faced with the ability to have a device that just produced energy that you could plug your... Now, right now, there's a lot of transformation of our energy systems that's going to happen. Oh, I wish I had George now. He'd be so interested in this. He would be so interested in this. he'd be all over it, and he's got electrical know-how. Wow. So anyway, I've got my list up. Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, Origin of Mass, Nature of Gravity. The video describes the paper. The Quantum Revolution, that's the first episode of Nassim's Gaia series that describes the nature of reality in terms of the new physics, the new unified physics, where the quantum world has been mathematically reconciled with the cosmological world, that you can see the mathematical relationship between the two. And all of the implications of the shape of the universe, the fullness of space, and the spinning space-time, and the black hole structure, and the new model of the Big Bang, and the holographic nature, and all of that stuff. That's the first episode of that series, Quantum Revolution. And then we have The Connected Universe. That's the movie made back in 2016, narrated by Patrick Stewart, all about Nassim Haramein unifying the quantum and cosmological universes mathematically. And I'm telling you guys, this is so important. This is where the technology is going to come from. This is going to be real, people. I'm not just talking philosophy. I'm not just talking about how to understand yourself so that you can have a better relationship with your spouse and your children and your work and your world. You know, I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about all of us making it to a sustainable future. Living in the future's past. The reason I put that one in there is when you watch that, when you get a sense of us being a super organism, you know, one being unto this planet, you get a sense of that. And then the last one is just the paper, The Origin of Mass and Nature of Gravity. This paper right here. It gives you a link to where this is, zenodo.org/records/ If you look at the link, it's the same one. See that? It's that paper. There's the full abstract. So where are we? We've passed an hour and 37 minutes. It's fair game to end whenever I want to now, whenever I feel it. If I feel like I've said enough for the day. What am I even doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what the Who Am I project really is. It's evolving. It's evolving on me. Like I said, it started with me just having an urge to stumble downstairs into this room and sit on the bed and talk to myself. Discuss what I thought. You know, as though there was somebody with me so that I could express myself. And it's like, you know what? You always want somebody around so that you can express yourself, and you want to do it because you want to know who you are. It's, you know, you pretend like you're interested in the other person, but you really just want an opportunity to say what you think. And it was like an opportunity to do it, and it didn't matter that there was nobody there. It was really quick that I started recording it, because that makes me feel like somebody is listening. The recorder is listening, you know, even if there's no human ear. And there's always the possibility that somebody will come across it at some point and listen to it. And, you know, even though there's no one in the room right now, there's no one in here with me, not even a dog. I don't have a dog or anything. At some point I want a dog, but right now I still want to be able to travel without encumbrance of any sort. And a pet, for the moment, I don't know how to do it. And so I don't have a pet of any sort. And so I get into the squirrels and the birds and such around my house because I do love non-human life. Absolutely adore non-human life. All of life is wonderful. So where will this project go? I don't know. I know that I'm getting better and better at just releasing my inhibitions, and there's no resistance whatsoever, and I can talk about anything, and it's all okay. I never push back against anything. I allow it to be whatever it is, and the better I get at that, the better my life is unfolding around me. The things are happening in my personal life. Small, but I like it that way. I like to move slow and deliberately. And I've got my focus on exactly where I am and where I'm going. Who am I? Who am I as I ask this question? So what do I want to add? So like I said, I don't know where this project is going, and it doesn't matter. I am here. I'm along for the ride. I'm having a good time. I do it because I enjoy doing this. It's fun for me to pull myself together and pull these thoughts together. It makes me realize how cool we are. And it is from this place where we are all so special. The way the universe is designed, the way we are holographic with one another. We are truly all in this together. And everyone is right here with me, just like I am right there with you. And we can't escape this, nor would we want to. This is going to be a fun ride. When we finally get ourselves collectively turned face forward, recognizing what our negative self really is. Our negative self is us identifying what would be better, what we would prefer. And instead of hanging out there, you recognize it and then face forward and move that direction. We could start doing this better. We really could. But what other people do with this, in a way, is none of my business. Whether they respond or not, in a way, is none of my business. It is my business to just do my part and do it naturally and playfully from wherever I am, and that's what I try to do. So, where does that leave us? Who am I? Who am I unto this world, and how do I be a better person? Listen to your inner being. Know that we are all one. We are one thing. We are holographic. I already said that. So I guess I'm done for the day. So if you were with me today, I really hope to see you again tomorrow. I hope you're with me tomorrow. It does help me to know that there is an ear. It doesn't even have to be a lot of ears. 2 ears. 1 person is enough. It makes me feel good. It takes me to the next day. And we'll see where this project goes. Because at some point, life is happening around us, and this is going to play in the field somehow. We'll just wait and see how it is. But for you, for your part, do your best. Love yourself. Love each other. Pay attention to your inner being. Care how you feel. Don't let yourself fall into the negative. If you get a negative hit, that's fine. You're designed to go into the negative. You're just not designed to stay there. The negative is just you recognizing what would be better. Oh, I don't like that. Ooh, this would be better. And then focus that way. See? So, till tomorrow. Until tomorrow, this is your host, Amelie Starchild, wishing you happy source energy. Just so you know, we won't be signing off that way again.